I'm very excited to be here because I'm actually a snowbird. So I don't know if that's going to garner boos or applause. I don't know. Do you guys like the snowbirds? I don't know. I'm going to presume we're good. So I'm excited. I reached out to Kate. I'm from Vancouver. When I came down here, I actually honestly wasn't sure what the startup scene was going to be like here. I didn't know a lot about it. And so I was very excited when I saw a random advertisement on Instagram telling me that there was going to be a Phoenix Startup Week, and Kate was very gracious to say, why don't you come on down and talk? So I'm hoping as the last speaker of the day that you guys are not going to be too tired to hear what I have to say. So I'm going to start off by getting the audience read here. So how many of you in this room are looking or thinking you might one day look for a co-founder? Raise your hand. Oh, awesome. Okay, great. The next question is, how many of you are currently in a co-founder partnership? Okay, awesome. And of those that are in a co-founder partnership, how many of you hate your co-founder? I'm just kidding. That's why I'm here. That is why I'm here. So, just very quickly to introduce myself, Tanis Jorge. I am a serial tech entrepreneur. I have built in the last 20 plus years about 4 companies, all of them with the same co-founder. The first 3 companies that I built were successfully exited, each one of them over the course of 10 years. And then in 2011, we started our 4th company, Silicon Valley invested in. And we started in 2011, and 2021, we were able to reach a valuation of about $1.65 billion and raise the highest Series D round in Canada. And basically, again, all of that was done with the same co-founder. So today, I want to share a little bit with you some interesting data facts that I discovered when I started my most recent venture. I'm the founder of the Cofounders Hub and author of the book called The Cofounders Handbook. And as I was doing research for this book, I came across a lot of very interesting statistics and data that just confirmed to me that the secret sauce of a successful business will be your co-founder partnership. So, before I begin, I'm going to look for 2 volunteers. And the criteria for these volunteers is you need a phone and you need access to the internet. So if you have that, stand up, raise your hand. Okay, 1, 2, perfect. So I'm going to get you to go on your phone, and I'm going to get you to go on your browser, and I want you to enter in the address bar google.com. I'm just going to go to flat out google.com search page. And there in the search bar, I want you to type the following phrase: my business partner is. Now, when you do that, we get autocomplete, which is a query that is done, and Google says this is the most likely phrase you're going to add at the end of this phrase. So, I'm going to get you both to read out to me. When you type in, my business partner is, what does autocomplete say?
Making decisions without me.
Oh, okay, making decisions without me. Any other, what? Do you have one there?
Yeah, it just redid it. Hold on, let me see it again.
Okay, do you have some more? We'll go back.
7 signs of a business partner?
Oh, the auto-correct.
Oh, mine's not doing that.
Okay, that's okay. It's all on you, my friend. My business partner
is not paying me. It's mentally ill.
Is mentally ill. Okay.
How to find a business partner for my startup?
Yeah.
Controlling business partner.
Yeah. Controlling.
Signs the business partner is stealing.
Yes.
How to deal with a controlling business partner.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have seen many different variations of all those different things, and I think the ultimate point of this is that we find out that at the end, oftentimes, business partnerships go sideways. And statistically speaking, when a partnership goes sideways, the business follows not too far behind. So, I want to start off with a positive statistic, which is that 87% of entrepreneurs of co-founded businesses have said that having a partner made their business more successful. So it's good, okay? So 87% said that having that person beside them helped them to make their business a bigger success. In my estimation, there's 4 really good reasons for that. The first one is vested interest is very valuable. Having that person there beside you who has money in the game, they have time commitment, they're there beside you, they are there through the thick and thin because they have a long ride. The other opportunity that comes with a partner is, of course, that you can divide and conquer. This allows you to say, hey, I'm going to take on this, you're going to take on that, and you can trust that that person, because of what they have involved, they're going to be part of it. Usually when people partner up, they have complementary skill sets. And that's a really important one as well, of course. If I'm going to open a restaurant, and I'm a restaurateur, I'm probably going to want a chef. Alternatively, if I'm starting a tech company, I might want an engineer as my tech partner. So oftentimes we go for complementary skills. And then lastly, there is also something to be said about the phrase, when the cat's away, the mice will play. So if you can have somebody there in the same field as you, another person keeping the eye on the prize, it's extremely helpful. But when asked to entrepreneurs, what exactly is your reason that you felt was a benefit to having a co-founder? The number one reason was moral support and sharing the burdens and the anxiety that comes along with being an entrepreneur. So my presumption here is that everybody here is an entrepreneur, and we all know it's a very much a roller coaster ride. It's crazy, there's ups and downs, and so to be able to have somebody beside you who is able to carry some of that weight, cheer you on when you are struggling. I know many times for me, when I was down, my partner was up, vice versa, when he was like, forget it, this isn't going to work, I'm there to go, let's hold on a little bit longer. So why do people partner with co-founders? So obviously, some of that is the same reason that I mentioned before. But 57% of people were more comfortable starting a business with somebody else. And it was just that. It was like, I don't really feel comfortable taking the lead on this on my own, and so I'm driven by the desire to not have to do it on my own. And I'm just going to be more comfortable starting if I have somebody with me. But there's one more statistic that is a little bit scarier than that. And that is that 33% of people feel obliged to start the business with the person that they had the idea with. So what that means is those people started a business really not doing the due diligence necessary to find out if that person at the helm that they're going to share the helm with is the right person. They feel obligated. Oh my goodness, we talked about it over beer, we talked about it over something, and now I can't just possibly start this business without them. I'm here to say that yes, you maybe should. So there's a few ways that you can handle that if that is something that you're considering, and it really is the due diligence process that's required to find a good co-founder. So those particular options are, first off, do a self-assessment. Oftentimes, when people are looking for a partner, they go exclusively for skill set. Kind of like what I mentioned before. I'm opening a restaurant, so I need a chef. I am building a tech app, so I need an engineer. And I would tell you, after countless interviews with countless co-founders, that is not the most important. There's so many other essential factors that make a good partnership. Things such as personality alignment, understanding one's conflict style, learning style, all of these things tie into communication that is so essential in the partnership down the road. So you need to have these different learning about yourself moments. Sometimes these self-assessments might be questions asking, what do I actually want out of this business? Sometimes people are looking for success, sometimes they're looking for significance, and those sort of things definitely lead into the kind of business and the decisions that you make with your partner. So, doing a real deep check, who am I moment, that's really key. And then when you do that, you're able to then identify gaps or complementary traits that you want to find in a partner, and it can sort of educate you and allow you to know what to look for. The next thing you want to do is you want to ask the hard questions. Oftentimes, when people are starting a partnership, they don't want to be the wet blanket who says, okay, what's going to happen at the end if we hate each other? How are we going to handle these things? So asking the tough questions that you don't feel you want to ask, those are the questions you ask. So you ask questions like, I want to see your credit report. I want to see if you pay your bills. Have you ever filed bankruptcy? It's an awkward question, but it's actually really, really important because it'll feed into your business. You might want to ask, what's your political affiliation? Again, same awkward questions. I have a story in the book where there was one partner who actually had a strong religious faith, and it really forced them to have to figure out how they would build their business around it. Again, a topic we're not totally supposed to talk about, but when you're in a partnership, you definitely have to do that. So that's some of the key things that you want to look at in that case. The main focus that you want to have with your partnership is that your business and your partnership is going to be a long-term project. You have to think success. You have to presume that you will still be partners 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the road. And so how do you keep that relationship strong? 37% of co-founders said their partnership was more stressful than the relationship with their significant other. Okay, so think about that. So when you wonder, this is going to be easy, you might want to keep that in mind. 30% of people said it was equal to the stress level of their relationship. So it's extremely important that you are intentional, and it's very important that you look to that person beside you and make sure that you're making decisions together appropriately. So why do people make mistakes in their partnership? Well, they don't go in with their eyes wide open. That's one of the most important things. I think that what happens is they don't have the ideology of where you need to presume that they don't know exactly what you're thinking. So you need to be transparent, you need to be vulnerable, you need to be authentic, you need to give trust and be earning of trust, and have grace. And I think that when we go into a partnership, sometimes it's a set it and forget it kind of relationship. All right, we signed on the dotted line, we're in the partnership now, so let's just focus on revenues, and let's just focus on that. 65% of businesses that are in a partnership will fail because of issues between the partners. Think about it. It isn't that your revenues are going to die down, you're not going to raise money, and that your product is going to suck. It's literally that the person beside you, you're going to have a rift, will be resentment, and then in the end, you're going to say, I'm out. And now you've got to figure out how to dissolve the partnership in a way that may salvage the business. Again, these are the facts that are really, really difficult. 43% of partnerships end with one co-founder buying up the other. So this leads into making sure that all of your legal agreements, your partnership agreements are extremely well thought out. Get the legal advice. Don't draw it on the back of a napkin. This isn't the time to be like, we're 50-50. You got to think about so many other factors and work with a lawyer, make sure that you do that. And lastly, 92% of partnerships end with a single event. And when I was interviewing people, I would get this response where they would explain about their partnership and then they would say, and then one day, and I'd be like, ooh, this is going to be juicy. And often that was the case. One day, some event happened, and that was the day that broke the straw, or it was the straw that broke the camel's back. And at that point on, they didn't talk again, they began the dissolution process, and so it began. So it doesn't, but in that instance, when you hear that, it wasn't a single event. It was an insidious little trail of mistrust, resentment that wasn't handled. So you need to be very intentional on a regular basis. So how do you do that? You want to work with your partner on a daily, weekly, monthly, and annual schedule. where you are intentional to share what you're doing in your partnership and what you're doing in your role. The important thing about that is that trust is like the foundation of your partnership. And if your partner doesn't know what you're doing, they don't trust your role, they don't have insight into what you're up to, then they can lack the trust that you can actually pull it off. So trust is extremely important. So be intentional on a daily basis. Send out an email. Hey, this is what I did today. This was the challenge. Tomorrow I'm doing this. Hope you had a great night. Weekly. Send in a spreadsheet of just what you did that week. Here's what I did. Here's some of the things that we closed. Here's what we're working on next week. By the way, I found out this about one of our team members. There's all these different things that you can just update each other. By the way, how's your project going? Do you need any help now for any assistance? Here's what we're doing this weekend. Me and the kids are going to see Guardians of the Galaxy. You're sharing a little bit about your life, and you're moving on. Monthly, you might do a big lunch. Sit down, talk about your vision, explain what you've been up to, where you're going, make sure you're in alignment. And then lastly, I highly recommend an annual getaway, a weekend, where you do something fun with your partner and you build that bond. But more importantly, you cast your vision for the year ahead and you make sure that you're on the same plan to move forward. And I give this analogy. The leaders of a company are like the captains of a ship, and they're standing at the helm and they're holding onto the steering wheel together. They both have a vision of where the company is going to go. What happens though is if one of them thinks we're going to go north of the island, and the other one's thinking, I think we should go a little south. Imagine what's happening to that steering wheel. One's pulling one way, one's pulling the other way. And if they don't understand why their partner is doing that, they're going to question in their mind, why is he doing that? Why is he pulling? Why is he telling the team to go that way with the masts? Why is he doing this? And this person's going, why does he keep tugging that? Why is he going against what I'm trying to do? Little do we know in a partnership that even the tiniest decision in one's mind will ultimately affect the direction that you're going to go. And if you are not in tune with your partnership, then unfortunately that can lead to the destruction of the partnership. So, one of the things that I often talk to people about, because sometimes they get very discouraged and they say, okay, is this even going to work? I often tell people that a partnership can be one of the greatest human experiences that you have. And the reason for that is because you give everything about yourself. A good partnership shares the personal, it shares the professional, it shares everything that goes on in your life, and that person is there for you. And if you can make that work, how exciting is it when you go on this entrepreneurial journey, and that person is there to ride that wave with you, and you have the ability to share stories, and share triumphs, and cry on each other's shoulder, but at the end come out on the other side saying, this was amazing. This was an incredible experience. And I see it so many times when I talk to business partners. And I really do hope that that is something that everybody considers here when you're in your partnership. That no matter what, let that partnership be the long-standing success of your business. No matter what happens to your business ultimately, let it be that friendship, and let it be that experience in the end comes out as just a wonderful friend all the way through. So that's back in there. If anybody has any questions about the partnership, I know sometimes there's very unique experiences. So if anyone has a question about partnerships, I'll take them.
I have two questions.
Okay. I'm ready.
This is the founder of Future Brand in Africa, first Boost.
Okay.
And I raised my first in July last year, and people are doing a co-founder. Not a full-time person, because investors are pressuring you to do that. Don't think it's too early, but they just say it's yes. So I reached out to a friend of mine who is a brilliant executive, and we talked for 3 months, spent 10 different lawyers, and then she just
I'll reiterate.
yeah, so I Yeah. So I've got a friend of mine who is a women executive. She's going to pick a job to work with me full time. But then at the last minute, she changed her mind.
Yeah.
So I went through 3 months of negotiation with her and her lawyer, with my lawyers, and I spent 10 grand on the lawyers. And then she just, last week saying, I don't need any more. That hurts. Okay. So what should I do? What would you do? That's the first question. Second option I have is look at a mentor of mine who owns a marketing agency, which she can't do full time.
Okay, so he's talking about a late stage co-founder coming into his business. He's already done a bunch already. So there's some interesting tidbits to add in there. He says that his investors are recommending. So I have never heard an investor say, I do not invest in teams, but I do know investors who say, I do not invest in solopreneurs. So that's something to keep in mind if you're wondering if you're going to be out there raising money. We'll shrink the pool of investors if you're trying to go it on your own. That said, the wrong co-founder is the biggest mistake you will make. And it doesn't matter if you raise the money or not. If that partnership is wrong, you're at risk. It's not worth it. It's very expensive to dissolve a partnership. So, first off, I'm actually happy for you that you bailed before you were in a partnership. That's a very, very good thing. There is a lot of different things that you can do to vet a potential co-founder. It's a bit of an art piece because it depends on the business. But one of the things that I do with people is I will run them through and I test their passion. I test when I give them an idea that I'm considering and I'm looking at them potentially to be a partner with me. I wait to see, do I get 3 a.m. phone calls or texts or emails saying, hey, this is a great idea, I want to do this. I ask them, hey, we should do a small project together. Let's put some money into this. Again, money is skin in the game. It gets people to kind of determine where they're at. But you also really, really want to go through what is going to be your role and really getting them to commit on what it is that they will be involved in. And I often find, again, that if people don't, once people recognize that it's not going to be easy, they often do end up just saying, you know what, this isn't for me. But it is extremely important that you do all the due diligence and all that vetting ahead of time. Even confirm what they tell you. They say they have a degree, or they say they're an excellent chef, or they say that they're good at something. Test it. Don't just take it for granted. The other thing that I always tell people to do as well is to really check references. I know that that's one thing that we do that, we get references. Do we really always call? It is actually extremely important that you get references from these folks to find out if they are the personality that will follow through. So, that helps. Yes.
What do you think about family members and co-founders?
That's book 2, because it needed a whole book. I do not think that a family member is ever a good idea in a business partnership. Statistically. Especially. You know what? There's a different dynamic that happens when you have partners with benefits, I call it. It's one of those things where you have to be incredibly mature. You have to be very aware of what is at risk. Christmas, holidays, family dinners is at risk. More often than not. I think the stat is that 85% of businesses that are in family members typically end up breaking the family apart. It's high. It's very high. Often even in succession type partnerships, that's even worse. Their dad or mom picks whose kids getting what. For me, I would not ever give my kids our business. I would sell it and distribute them. That's what I would do when it comes to family. Because it's such a crazy dynamic. I could talk a whole thing on how do you handle it if you're in it, but you have to be prepared, for sure. And to definitely formalize it legally the right way. Sir?
Yeah. What would your recommendation be for so let's say you found $5 million, years on time.
Yeah, so late stage co-founder partnership again. How do you establish equity. So there's many different ideas on how you would do that. I think one of the things you want to look at is what did you put into the business to date? Where is the company now? What is the risk that this person is taking? Are they coming in and they're scaling it because it's a rocket ship and it's going? Or is it risky now, and that's why you're bringing them in to do something? The other thing is, what is the succession plan? Are they going to ride this with you, or is this something that you're eventually going to hand off to them, which is sometimes the case in a late-stage co-founder partnership? Anywhere from 2 to 1, 5 to 1 would be the ratio of equity. But I think that it becomes really, really important to find out from that person what is their end game, and really determining to them, what are you going to do here? I remember there was an interview I did with a founder who brought in an employee who was amazing. She was like the CFO. She was incredible. And he brought her in, and she ended up just wanting to be in her role to be the co-founder. And it ended up totally disrupting their entire culture. And then he ended up losing her as a partner, and thus losing the incredible CFO. So you have to be really, really intentional about finding out what they bring to the table and what are the expectations. And then lastly, I would add a vesting period. All people starting a partnership and I would recommend a vesting period, somewhere between 3 to 4 years, where everybody has to vest their shares. And that protects you, that if someone leaves in a year and they don't work out, they're not taking everything with them. So the vesting period is important no matter what stage you're in.
There's a few other platforms that also include their buy-in or everything like this to.
Yeah, exactly. It really depends what they're bringing in.
From the vesting period, we look at milestones.
Yeah, exactly. So you want to, again, every business is different, and every outcome, why you're bringing somebody in. Why? Are you, again, trying to scale the company? Are you bringing in a new division? Is it somewhat going to be their baby to run? All those things need to be taken into account when you do equity, and then you need to set those parameters and those milestones as you're doing it. Yes?
Advice for a situation in which a co-founder is not really pulling their weight, and still a lot of potential there, and skill and whatnot, but it's a good way to have a conversation to try to sort that through.
So the number one fear that people have about bringing on a partner is, what if they just don't pull their weight? And unfortunately, that is often the case. So the first thing that I tell everyone to do is you have to have a tough conversation. You can't let it be lingering in your mind as you're resentful, like, why wasn't he here on this date? Why didn't they come in? Why didn't they do this thing? So you literally have to sit down and say, this is a problem. This is something that is not working in our partnership. You're not pulling your weight. Or, this is the other side of it. I had an expectation that I did not communicate, and now I'm realizing that you're not following through with my expectation. So what you can do at that point is to actually have one of those sit-down conversations and say, let's redesign our job description. Let's redesign what it is that we're trying to achieve here. What do we need to succeed? And maybe what we need to do is just retell what it is that we're doing. Because sometimes, and I have met, where the partner's thinking, honestly, he won't pass off any information, any more work to me. And I'm just sitting here, I wish he would use me more. And then sometimes you get the opposite side of it. So having those conversations with them and just saying, why is this not working? Why are you doing this? Maybe there's a reason there. Maybe you're not explaining and clarifying. And then they say, let's document something here. Let's make a pledge on how we're going to move forward with this. It's the tough conversation, unfortunately. Yes.
You mentioned that having or doing a self-assessment and that totally makes so much sense, especially the ones that you mentioned, even and nowadays, especially the political affiliations that can really piss people off, I've noticed. Can you give us your top 3, though, the things that you would suggest? Myers-Briggs, astrology, what are the ones that, if we did one of them, we'd probably be pretty successful at noticing the doofus that we didn't really want to bring on because they don't pull their weight?
Yeah, absolutely. So what would be the personality? I personally like disc assessment, personally, I find it's very effective. It's simple, easy to read. But there are other things as well. You want to find out what their conflict style is. That's an important one. Oftentimes, if you don't know going in, you don't understand why that person is doing the things that they do. And if you can understand both yourself and them better, then you can communicate better. So conflict style, learning style. I know for me, I'm completely visual. If you just start throwing things at me, I'm not. I'm tuned out. So when my co-founder and I would make plans, we had a whiteboard, and we'd whiteboard everything, and it allowed me to see, oh, I get what we're doing. I see what we're doing. So learning style is extremely, extremely important for us. And then the other test or questionnaire that I find a lot of people don't really ask or talk about is really trying to find out what is the goal here. And everyone thinks, oh, I just want to build a business, I want to make some money, I want to do different and sundry things, but you might find that ultimately in the end, that person has a goal to have a cash flow business, maybe to have an acquisition sooner or later. All these things will tie into that partnership. So these are the questions. We have a discovery session at Cofounders Hub that's coming out, and it's 50 to 70 of the biggest questions you need to have with your partner. Questions like, can our spouses work in the business? Can my kids work in the business? These are the things that actually need to be spoken out before, as opposed to when your co-founder comes to you later and says, oh, my son wants to be the manager here. And now you're going, he smokes weed and he plays video games all day long. But how do you say that? You can't do it. So if you address a lot of these questions ahead of time, then it's not an emotionally charged response. And if you have the ideology that you're going to run every decision through the phrase, what's the best for the company, and if you both agree that that will be how you make decisions, then those emotionally charged decisions that you have to make won't be so emotional. You can focus on what's the best for the company. Anybody else? Yes.
So as far as roles, I specifically focus on product development, and I lead the fundraising efforts. I need help with the marketing side of things, the sales. How do you go about finding the right marketing person? Because I have hired a couple of agencies in the past, and listen, this is money. It's not funny, but so like, how do you? It's very hard to raise money. It's excruciatingly hard. So, do you rely on agencies in the beginning, or do you hire a marketing person first and marketing first?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just in my experience and with companies, we've done both. Actually, I've even hiring a firm depends on how much capital you have up front. Sometimes hiring a firm to do your marketing for you, there's more accountability. There's more ways that you can get them to have results, and you have some sort of backstop and protection. It's more expensive, but you have a better opportunity that way. And if you wanted to bring in a co-founder or somebody like that with a marketing background, again, it's extremely, extremely important that you write down what is your job description. What do I expect from you? What are the outcomes that are to have, and have that conversation before you bring them on board, so that they know what that is. If you're like, I expect you to, have 3 viral social media, posts, you don't explain that to them, and you come in later on going, where's the marketing here? And then I didn't know you wanted that. It's extremely, and it ties in even with any executive that you bring on board. You don't just hire them and say, okay, here's this. You really have to be clear what their expectations are. So it's the same thing with them. A little hardest ones. Yes?
Okay, so what if you had a scenario where you did everything wrong? So you started, you guys had an idea, you put it on paper, you're like, yeah, 50-50, you just go online, you register it, like, okay, let's go, you get a website, you're like, okay, we're in business, right? And then something happens, and you're like not speaking to it. So what is the step to dissolve that business? How important is it to dissolve the business? Like, what can happen if you do nothing?
Yeah, so basically she said, what do you do when you make all the mistakes and in the end you partnered with the wrong person and it's horrible and you want out? That's basically it. So there's a few things that I always recommend that people do. First one is that you should look at your partnership contract. What are your obligations? Did you have any obligations? Is there a buy-sell clause in there? Is there any of that kind of stuff? So the first thing is to do, what did you legalize and what did you formalize in the contract? The next thing, again, is going back to the really hard question and just saying, you know what? I am not interested in being in this partnership for these reasons. This isn't the way that I designed, we saw this being. This is how our business is being affected by us not being in sync. And I think sitting down and really being able to lay that out of why the partnership isn't working. And then you need to decide, how are you going to help them exit? So are you going to create a financial reason for them to exit, which means would you buy them out? Not something that you got to figure out. Is there a way that you can shift them into a position within the company? I've seen that happen many times where it's like, you know what? You're not working out because all you want to do is market. Why don't we shift you into the role of that? You don't need all the responsibility of being a founder. I can move you in. You know what we're doing here. You would be amazing in marketing. Let's get you a great salary. Let's give you this much equity. Let's move you in that direction. That's another really great way that I've seen happen. Finally, unfortunately, you need to meet with a lawyer and you need to ask them, how do I dissolve this legally? Typically what happens when you're dissolving a partnership and it's really bad and you've got to get out is the best thing to do is have legal counsel with you when you fire your partner and have them there. They handle it for you. You're just there to say, I'm sorry, this isn't working out. And then you dissolve it in that way. It's messy. And this is why I come to everybody now, before you're in a partnership or when you're in one, how do I prevent you from being in that situation? And again, it's intentionality and really, really making sure that that partnership is one of the most important factors that you take care of over anything else. Oh, one more.
Can you talk about your co-founder?
Yeah, I will. I will tell you about my co-founder. When I was in grade 8, I started school and I had my locker beside Stephen Upper. His last name started with a U, mine ended with started with W. And so for 5 years, we had lockers beside each other in high school. And we became the best of friends. And we did a lot of school projects together. And not too long after high school, he reached out to me and said, I have an idea for a business. Do you want to do it with me? And I thought the business was incredibly boring. I was really lame. But I was excited to do something with Stephen. And I thought, you know what, this is going to be fun. We have good times together. And so we started our first business just right out of high school. So I was like what we talked about there. We were the hustlers outside of high school. And yeah, we went on to build our partnership. We just understood what each other, how do I say it? We complemented each other. We were in the same, where he ended, I began. We both had very different skill sets, and we learned how to appreciate that in each other. And so I think that was one of the key pieces to us being able to stay partners for so many years over multiple different businesses. We knew our lanes. We knew how to uplift one another. We knew how to communicate what we needed. We trusted each other. We often said, here's a blank check. If you feel like you need to write it, you do it. I trust everything that we have. And that's the level of trust that's really valuable in a partnership. And if you can get there, it's very hard. So I think that it was communication and this ability to trust what the other person's saying and know that they always meant the best for each other. You were both in it to win. If he failed, then I failed right along beside it. And I think that's, again, a philosophy that's really, really helpful when you're in a partnership, to realize that they're probably not twisting their mustache, figuring out how to screw you over. It's very likely that they just genuinely made a mistake, and you can work through it. So just keeping that in mind as well. Awesome. Thank you.